Minamikawa knew a secret about the boy who sat next to her, Takamori-kun. It was a troublesome, heart-fluttering secret. He liked her, and she knew this because she could hear his every thought. Since she was a child, Minamikawa could hear people's minds, which were often filled with harsh and negative thoughts. By high school, she'd grown used to it. But Takamori was different. His constant, unfiltered praise was more than she could handle, making her want to scream. Takamori was popular with girls, despite his blunt demeanor. Minamikawa, however, was completely flustered by his inner thoughts, as no boy had ever called her cute before. Trying to compose herself, she resolved to ignore it. Suddenly, he accidentally dropped his eraser. Minamikawa picked up the eraser for him. As she handed it back, Takamori was internally panicking at how close she was, though he managed to thank her calmly. Overwhelmed by her kindness, Takamori's mind screamed with affection, declaring his love for her. Hearing this, Minamikawa could barely contain her blush. Realizing he'd been staring, Takamori quickly looked away. Minamikawa felt she couldn't take it anymore. As Takamori's mind was already planning to make the eraser an heirloom, she knew she had to find a way to shut him up. His thoughts continued unabated, a stream of praise and love. That left Minamikawa feeling like she could die from pure embarrassment. She felt guilty for eavesdropping on his thoughts. As a bashful person, this constant praise was dangerous for her. She had always been able to ignore insults, but she found she would rather be hated than be liked this intensely. An idea struck her. If she could make Takamori hate her, she could simply ignore his negative thoughts. She pondered how to achieve this without it being strange, like suddenly confessing her own hatred for him. Her opportunity arrived when Takamori, having forgotten his textbook, asked if he could share hers. Realizing this was her chance, she curtly turned him down. Minamikawa was certain this petty act would finally make him hate her. This would bring her the peace she craved. But a moment later, a wave of guilt washed over her. She worried she might have gone too far. To her utter shock, her plan had the opposite effect. Takamori found her cold attitude incredibly cute. Thrilled to see a new side of her, her attempt to create distance had failed completely. Giving in to her guilt, she apologized and offered him the book. Takamori was delighted, finding her playful side adorable. Overwhelmed yet again, Minamikawa could only tell him to shut up. She fled to the bathroom, completely worn out. Hiding in the toilet, Minamikawa felt her head spinning. She wasn't used to being liked so much, and it was driving her crazy. She decided she had to make him hate her, and fast, before she completely lost her mind. With only one option left, she called Takamori to the school rooftop. He followed, his mind racing with excitement at the prospect of being alone with her. He wondered if she was about to confess. Gathering her courage, Minamikawa looked at him, her face flushed, and asked him directly what he thought of her. Her plan was simple: make him confess his feelings. Then she would reject him as harshly as possible. She believed this was the only way to finally get some peace, even if she didn't truly hate him. Faced with her direct question, Takamori's mind went into overdrive. He was flooded with thoughts about all the things he liked about her, getting lost in a spiral of affection and embarrassment. The sheer intensity of his thoughts, love, cute, precious, hit Minamikawa all at once. The emotional onslaught was too much, and she grew dizzy, unable to stand. As she stumbled, Takamori rushed forward, reaching out to catch her and asking with concern if she was all right. Lying on the ground, completely defeated, Minamikawa muttered that she was dying, but even in her embarrassment, she vowed that she would make him shut up someday, marking the beginning of their heart-throbbing story. Minamikawa has a unique condition that allows her to hear the often harsh and negative thoughts of everyone around her. After 16 years, she has grown used to it, learning to ignore the noise and find her own peace. Her peaceful routine continued until she greeted a certain classmate one morning. The person who disrupts her peace is Takamori-kun, and his thoughts are startlingly sweet. Completely flustered, Minamikawa finds his constant mental praise annoying and wishes he would stop. The sheer intensity of his affection makes her feel like she'll die of embarrassment. She'd much rather be insulted. She decides she has to make Takamori-kun hate her quickly, or her heart won't be able to take it. The school bell signals the end of the day. Minamikawa is completely drained from the day's events. She feels like she's dying from the constant onslaught of Takamori's loving thoughts. Feeling utterly exhausted, she decides to retreat for the day. She realizes with a jolt that she's forgotten her bag, something she has never done before. She rushes back and slides the classroom door open. To her surprise, Takamori-kun is still in the classroom. She asks him why he hasn't gone home yet. He explains that the teacher asked him to stay behind and help grade a large pile of tests. Seeing the daunting task, she thinks it looks troublesome and wonders if she should help. She immediately reconsiders, realizing that helping him would only invite more embarrassing thoughts, like the one she's hearing right now. Deciding against it, she stiffly wishes him luck with the troublesome task and says goodbye. She apologizes and turns to leave, and Takamori says he'll see her tomorrow. But then she hears him think that he must look mean, and that she could have at least offered to help. His thoughts make her stop in her tracks. She reflects that she thought she had finally gotten used to her condition and could have a normal high school life. But she can't bear the thought of dying from embarrassment because of Takamori. Just then she hears him think her name, making her gasp. She hears the rest of his thought, that she's a really nice person. Minamikawa is completely stunned by his gentle assessment of her. Takamori is touched that she went out of her way to say goodbye to someone as plain as him. With a faint smile, he reaffirms his belief that she is a very nice person. Hearing his genuine and kind thoughts, Minamikawa is completely overwhelmed. Blushing furiously, she slides down to the floor, thinking that he is far too kind. She chides herself, thinking she isn't a nice person at all. She decides she should help him after all, since there's a lot to be done. Her heart screams in protest, but she steels her resolve. For the sake of her own peaceful high school life, she runs back into the classroom. Now sitting together, they both work on grading the tests. She thinks that since she came back anyway, she can just leave before things get too embarrassing. Just as Takamori thinks about how kind she is, she gets flustered. Her pen suddenly runs out of ink. She is forced to ask if she can borrow his pen. Takamori offers her a pen. As she takes it, their hands briefly touch. Startled, Minamikawa apologizes, but she can hear his own internal panic begin. Although Takamori maintains a perfect poker face, his mind erupts in absolute chaos over having touched her hand. The sheer intensity of his silent freakout hits Minamikawa like a physical blow. The force of it sends her clattering to the floor. The overwhelming noise makes her head spin, and she feels like she might actually die. A concerned Takamori asks what's wrong, while Minamikawa internally screams that it's his fault. She's shocked by his incredible poker face, realizing he doesn't seem embarrassed at all. She realizes that she's the only one suffering from embarrassment. It's because he never actually confesses his feelings himself. Suddenly, a new plan forms in her mind. She has to make Takamori-kun confess. Putting her plan into action, Minamikawa gets right in front of the kneeling Takamori and confronts him directly, asking if he likes her. Minamikawa waits, blushing for his answer. Takamori looks back, completely stunned. Takamori begins to stammer, looking flustered. But before he can get the words out, Minamikawa holds up a hand to stop him. Suddenly mortified by her own forwardness, Minamikawa realizes she's at her limit. She blurts out for him to forget what she said, then quickly says goodbye and flees the room. As the classroom door slides shut, Takamori is left all alone. He slowly crouches to the floor. He lets out a long, shaky sigh. Touching his now blushing face, Takamori thinks about how much she surprised him. He realizes that whenever he's with Minamikawa-san, his own heart feels like it's going to explode. Walking through the school hallway, Minamikawa is consumed by a single, repetitive thought: this is bad. Even while trying to relax in the bath, she remains dazed, unable to shake the feeling. The thought follows her to bed, keeping her from getting any rest. She stares into the darkness, mortified by what she has done. She recalls getting carried away and saying something outrageous to Takamori-kun. Rolling around in her bed, she cringes at how embarrassing and self-conscious she must have looked. Unable to sleep, she sits at her desk, worrying about how she can possibly face Takamori-kun now. Her anxiety spikes as Takamori-kun enters the classroom. Blushing and flustered, she stammers a good morning greeting. Takamori calmly greets her back before heading to his seat. Minamikawa is stunned by his seemingly normal reaction. She watches him sit down, wondering if he's back to normal and if she was just overthinking the entire situation. Takamori's mind is actually racing with worry. He's so conscious of her that he can't look her in the face and couldn't sleep at all. Minamikawa realizes with a blush that he's seriously overthinking things. He continues to ponder why she would have asked him such a question. He thinks back to when she called him to the roof, wondering what she truly thinks about him. He seriously considers the possibility that she might already know he likes her. He wonders if his feelings were so obvious they leaked out, which Minamikawa mentally refutes. Takamori dismisses the idea, remembering how often people misunderstand him due to his expressionless face. Startled, Minamikawa overhears him wonder if she can read minds. He sighs, trying to come up with another reason for her question. He worries if he's grinning so hard in front of her that it's gross. He decides he needs to be careful because he doesn't want to trouble her. He resolves to just think about it in his mind, which is the very thing that troubles Minamikawa the most. While running, Minamikawa feels like the situation isn't going well, and she's just going in circles. Simultaneously, she wishes she wasn't so bashful, while Takamori wishes he could read minds. She sighs, feeling that even if her wish came true, it can't be helped. She steels her resolve. She decides she must think of a way to make him hate her before the embarrassment kills her, right as she trips on a rock. Her eyes widen in surprise. She goes sliding across the ground. Shocked, she laments that it's not her lucky day and wonders if she's been cursed. The teacher runs over, asking Minamikawa if she's all right. He then asks if there is anyone who can take her to the nurse's office. Minamikawa springs up lively, insisting that she's okay and can go by herself. The teacher questions her certainty, but she confirms she's going now. Once alone, she reflects on how close she came to bothering everyone. She knows from reading minds that people don't want to be pulled away from the marathon. Thinking it's better not to bother anyone, she heads off on her own. However, as she takes a step, a sharp pain shoots through her foot. She realizes she has twisted her leg. She sits down, regretting her decision and thinking it would have been better to let someone help her. She looks down the empty hall, realizing no one is around since class is in session. She sighs, convinced that today is just not her lucky day. Suddenly, Takamori-kun appears and calls out to Minamikawa-san. He looks at her with concern and asks if she's okay. She looks back, her eyes wide with surprise and a blush creeping onto her face. Completely flustered, she wonders why Takamori-kun is here. Takamori thinks about how he rushed over after hearing she was injured, but knows she'd be mad if he admitted it. So he tells her he just came back to get something from the classroom, a lie Minamikawa instantly sees through. He then awkwardly brings the conversation back to her injury. Minamikawa flashes a brilliant smile, insisting she's fine and there's no need to worry. She tells him she's just resting here. She urges Takamori-kun to get back to the marathon before the teacher gets angry. As she tries to leave, he grabs her wrist. Takamori looks her in the eye and states that she doesn't look fine to him. His directness leaves Minamikawa completely flustered. Takamori is the type who acts without thinking, his mind going blank as he holds her hand. Minamikawa is left confused and flustered by his actions. He then kneels and calmly says that he will carry her. Minamikawa can only react with utter shock. Takamori empties his mind and lifts her onto his back, leaving her to wonder what in the world is happening. She thinks that being carried by a boy classmate is the most embarrassing situation she has ever been in. Feeling self-conscious, she asks if she's heavy and tells him he can put her down. Takamori calmly reassures her that she's very light and he's got it. She contemplates reading his mind at that moment, but she quickly decides against it, afraid that the second-hand embarrassment would make her faint right on his back. She resolves that she will not let that happen. Takamori realizes she pushes herself so hard because she doesn't want to be a bother to anyone. He then thinks to himself that he loves that part of her too, leaving Minamikawa confused. Takamori wishes she would learn to rely on others more often. He continues, thinking that he would be very happy if she chose to rely on him. Overhearing his sincere wish, Minamikawa is left stunned. Her face flushes with a deep blush. Takamori notices her temperature and asks if she has a fever, causing her to panic and deny it. They arrive at the infirmary. After setting her down, Takamori says he will call the nurse. As he turns to leave, Minamikawa calls out to him. She shyly thanks him for carrying her. She then promises that if he gets injured, she'll be the one to carry him next time. Takamori is left completely bewildered by her offer. She strikes a confident pose, insisting she's stronger than she looks and could easily carry him. She even declares she could carry him princess style. She thinks to herself that this will both repay her debt and put him off, a perfect plan. Takamori watches her, thinking about a girl having the power to carry a boy. Instead of being weirded out, Takamori just thanks her, thinking her personality gap is incredibly cute. His sweet thought completely short-circuits Minamikawa's brain. The nurse arrives and asks if she has a fever, and a flustered Minamikawa loudly insists she does not. Minamikawa approaches Takamori-kun at his desk, asking if she can borrow his phone for a moment. He agrees without hesitation, handing over his phone. Minamikawa quickly taps on his phone. She hands it back to him. Minamikawa then bids him farewell, leaving Takamori behind. Takamori is left standing there, holding his phone and wondering what that was all about. Takamori looks at his phone and discovers that Minamikawa has added herself to his friend list listed among his family members. Elsewhere, Minamikawa giggles to herself, thrilled with her successful maneuver, as Takamori exclaims in surprise. Minamikawa chuckles mischievously outside her home. She triumphantly announces to herself that she got Takamori-kun's line contact, holding up her phone. She gleefully considers her options. Now she can spam him with stickers or annoy him with constant phone calls. Minamikawa imagines Takamori getting extremely annoyed by her constant pings, exclaiming for her to shut up. She believes this will make him finally shut up, allowing her peaceful high school life to return. With a determined look, she decides to message him. Meanwhile, at Takamori's house, his phone pings on his desk. He picks it up and sees a message from Minamikawa, cheerfully announcing that she just got home. He looks at the message thoughtfully, a slight blush on his face as he changes. 30 minutes later, Minamikawa wonders if he will respond. An hour later, she asks if he is home yet. 2 hours later, she still hasn't received a response. She peeks at her phone, wondering if he's asleep. Minamikawa sees that Takamori has read all her messages but hasn't replied, exclaiming that he left her on read. She panics, wondering why he would do that. She wonders if she annoyed him too much, then considers that this outcome might actually be a good thing for her plan. Minamikawa thrashes in frustration on her bed, exclaiming that she can't read his mind and doesn't know what he's thinking. Meanwhile, Takamori is looking at his phone, seriously overjoyed and thinking how happy he is to have received a line message from Minamikawa-san. Takamori wonders how to reply, considering saying he just got home himself. He then thinks of a more enthusiastic reply, thanking her for adding him and expressing his happiness, but dismisses it as potentially too plain. He becomes determined to think of the best possible response, sweating with concentration. Minamikawa jumps when her phone finally pings with a notification. However, it's just a sticker of a cat, and she wonders what this cat is supposed to mean. She thinks he's already trying to end the conversation, even though she hasn't sent many messages yet. Elsewhere, Takamori is depressed, wishing he were better at writing messages and lamenting that he relied on a sticker. Takamori drops his phone on the bed. He wonders why Minamikawa-san would want to exchange line contacts with someone like him. He considers himself plain and boring, thinking that talking to him can't be exciting. He sighs, feeling like he's always asking for the impossible and wishing his social skills were better. Suddenly, Takamori's phone starts ringing on his desk. He wonders about a call this late. He picks it up, questioning if his mom called him by mistake. Seeing it's Minamikawa calling, Takamori is surprised. He takes a deep breath to compose himself. He answers with a hesitant hello, and a dial tone is heard. On the other end, Minamikawa cheerfully greets Takamori-kun. She explains that since he hadn't replied for a while, she decided to call him instead. Takamori apologizes for not replying sooner. Minamikawa laughs and tells him it's fine and there's no need to worry. An awkward silence follows. Minamikawa thinks to herself that the conversation has stopped again, even though they're calling each other. Minamikawa recalls how she usually feels she can tell what Takamori is thinking, imagining him to be talkative and complimenting her that she is cute and lovely and that he likes her. But in reality, Takamori-kun isn't talkative at all. He's more like a cool lone wolf. Realizing she needs to come up with something to say, she exclaims, "Oh." Minamikawa tells Takamori-kun to look outside. He slides open his balcony door, wondering what she means. From her own balcony, Minamikawa gazes at the night sky, exclaiming that it's a full moon today. Minamikawa remarks on how beautiful the moon is. She asks Takamori-kun if he can see it well from where he is. Takamori thinks about the fact that he's looking at the same moon as Minamikawa-san. Takamori reflects that even if there are many things he wants to say, he can't properly put them into words and it frustrates him. He wishes he could properly say what's on his mind. A flashback shows Minamikawa after the entrance ceremony, offering to carry an elderly woman's heavy bag. Takamori overhears another student complaining about how tiring the ceremony was. Minamikawa confidently tells the woman not to worry, as she's stronger than she looks. Back in the present, Takamori looks thoughtful while on the phone. He then quietly agrees with something. Takamori tells Minamikawa that the moon is beautiful, isn't it? Minamikawa is visibly stunned and blushing by his words. Minamikawa is completely taken aback. She exclaims in surprise, clearly startled. She is so startled that she drops her phone. Flustered, she admits that his words startled her. Minamikawa wonders what that was all about. She frantically tells herself that he meant the actual moon was beautiful, not her, flailing her arms. Takamori notices she hung up. His younger sister, Oniai-chan, slides open the door and peeks in, calling out to her brother. Takamori's sister peeks in and asks if that was his girlfriend. He denies it, asking if she was eavesdropping. She replies that he said the moon is beautiful, isn't it? She then asks if that doesn't mean I love you, leaving Takamori stunned. Takamori has a moment of realization. He exclaims that now he understands why she hung up on him, realizing he's really done it now. His sister chides him, saying it's not good to say that when he's not serious. Takamori looks down, a slight blush on his face. He quietly tells his sister that he isn't joking. He looks at his sister and admits that he is serious. She looks at him, surprised by his earnest admission. The next morning at school, Minamikawa tries to calm herself, thinking Takamori-kun has already forgotten what he said last night. She awkwardly greets him, stammering his name and apologizing for yesterday. She launches into a flurry of excuses, saying she just wanted to try messaging someone or was just bored, entering what she calls super excuses mode. Minamikawa nervously asks Takamori if he can just forget what happened last night. He calmly agrees after a brief pause. Minamikawa observes that Takamori-kun seems fairly normal today. She concludes that last night wasn't a confession after all, feeling a sense of relief as she sits down. However, Takamori then tells Minamikawa not to forget what he said last night. Minamikawa is left confused and speechless by his statement. Takamori, blushing, confirms that he said it, meaning his earlier words. The realization dawns on Minamikawa, it was a confession after all. Overwhelmed, she faints and falls to the floor as Takamori calls out her name in surprise. With the entrance ceremony finally over, Takamori is relieved. He decides to hurry home. He sees a girl offering to carry an elderly woman's heavy bags. Takamori observes the freshman's kind gesture, noting how the woman warns her that the bags are heavy. The girl confidently assures the woman that she has no worries, as she's stronger than she appears. The sight strikes Takamori like a bolt of lightning, and his heart begins to pound. He watches as the girl confirms she'll accompany the woman all the way to the station. The sight is so overwhelming that Takamori has to crouch down for a moment to compose himself. It was in that moment that Takamori fell in love, finding the girl incredibly cute and nice. He crouches, wondering what her name could be. As the school bell rings, he sits in class, hoping he'll meet her again and wondering which class she's in. To his astonishment, the very same girl walks up to his desk and wishes him a good morning. Takamori is completely shocked. She introduces herself as Minamikawa and happily announces that she'll be sitting next to him. Minamikawa reads his name, Takamori, off his desk. She hopes they'll get along, and he manages a short reply. Internally, he's so overjoyed that he slams his head onto his desk, leaving Minamikawa completely baffled. Minamikawa, who can read minds, looks forward to a peaceful high school life. She cheerfully greets her new deskmate. She observes that the boy sitting next to her seems like a quiet person, thinking there shouldn't be any problems. Minamikawa is confused when she hears an ecstatic thought from Takamori. She wonders why he's suddenly so happy, as his stoic expression says the complete opposite. She politely says it's nice to meet him, all while trying to figure out what his reaction was about. She thinks back, trying to recall if she knows this guy. She recalls a time his only thought was about how delicious his onigiri was. Another time, after falling and getting scraped up, his mind only screamed about the pain. Minamikawa is exasperated, wondering how his mind can be so loud when his expression is so calm. The next day, she approaches him and says good morning. He quietly returns the greeting. Takamori thinks to himself that she's cute today as well. Minamikawa realizes he's looking at her reflection in the window, while his mind wonders if there's anyone as angelic as her. Hearing his thoughts about how nice and cute she is makes her blush. Completely flustered, Minamikawa slams her hand on her desk and exclaims in frustration. Takamori glances at her, confused by her sudden outburst. She makes a flimsy excuse about the time. Internally, she desperately wants to shut him up, begging him to stop making her so embarrassed every day. In cooking class, the teacher instructs the students to form groups and start making curry rice. Minamikawa stands anxiously, clutching a knife and an onion, clearly worried about the task ahead. Minamikawa is still dwelling on what Takamori said yesterday, wondering if his poetic phrase was truly a confession. A friend notices her distraction and tells her not to be too bothered by it since he did not explicitly say he loved her. Takamori approaches and offers to cut the vegetables for her, concerned that she might hurt herself. His kind gesture makes Minamikawa blush intensely. Startled by her reaction, Takamori fumbles with a ladle, causing a clatter. Overwhelmed and dizzy, Minamikawa falls over, scattering utensils. Now hyper-aware of Takamori, she tries to chop an onion. In her flustered state, she accidentally cuts her finger with a sharp yelp. Panicking, Minamikawa cries out that she cut her finger. Takamori immediately turns to her, asking if she's hurt. She insists she's fine, but her frantic waving only makes the situation more obvious. Without a word, Takamori calmly tears a strip from his apron. He gently takes her hand and carefully wraps the cloth around her injured finger. Minamikawa can only stare, completely flustered and blushing at his focused attention. After securing the makeshift bandage, Takamori announces that he's done. He tells her to be more careful, adding that he's still concerned. His words leave Minamikawa trembling and speechless, and he calls out her name in concern. An awkward silence hangs between them. To break the tension, Minamikawa suddenly springs to her feet, enthusiastically declaring that they should get back to making the curry. In her flustered state, she nearly dumps a bag of sugar into the pot. She then panics as the contents of the pot flare up and burn. Her frantic attempts to fix it only make her groupmates plead for her to calm down. The result of her chaotic cooking is a plate of burned and muddled curry. The group can only stare in silent dismay at the unappetizing dish. When it comes time to taste the curry, everyone takes a hesitant bite. The reaction is a universal grimace. Her teammates make excuses, claiming they aren't hungry or are on a diet. Feeling guilty, Minamikawa apologizes, realizing her reckless behavior was due to her embarrassment around Takamori. Minamikawa notes that no one wants to eat the charred curry. She has a sudden realization. She decides she should make Takamori eat all of it, thinking that her complete lack of domestic skills will surely disgust him. Minamikawa approaches Takamori with the plate of burnt food. With a bright smile, she cheerfully tells him to eat lots. Takamori simply looks at her, his expression unreadable. Without a word, Takamori picks up a spoon. To the absolute shock of his teammates, he takes a bite of the curry. He thoughtfully begins to eat. After a moment, Takamori calmly declares that it is the most delicious curry he has ever had. Minamikawa is left completely dazed by his response. Unbeknownst to her, Takamori is thinking that simply eating food made by the girl he likes is a luxury. A classmate can only remark on how amazing Takamori is. She notices his eyebrows wrinkling from the bitter taste, yet in his mind, even the burned potato is precious. Seeing him struggle, she frantically tells him not to force himself. Takamori's thoughts continue, praising the dish and reasoning that he wouldn't refuse it because it was made by her. Hearing his genuine happiness through his thoughts, Minamikawa is touched. She is left speechless and blushing deeply. Flustered, she insists that she can make it much better, you know. She admits that today's attempt was a failure and that her cooking is usually not like this. She shakes him, pleading for him to stop forcing himself to eat, but he denies it. Trying to make things right, she promises to cook something he likes next time to make up for it. Takamori's eyes light up at her offer. Minamikawa is taken aback by his sudden interest. She gets flustered again, admitting she can't make anything too complicated because she isn't a very good cook. She insists that no matter how one looks at it, the curry is just too much. She declares her creation a death curry that is not delicious at all. She pleads with him to stop eating so she can make it up to him. She then quietly asks if she's not good enough to make up for it. Takamori gently takes her hand and tells her that he is happy. He earnestly explains that he wants to eat it precisely because it is Minamikawa's cooking. Minamikawa is stunned into a blushing silence. She gasps, realizing he's holding her hands. Realizing what he's done, Takamori apologizes and lets go. As she panics over what to make, he thoughtfully considers the possibilities. Takamori gets lost in a daydream, imagining a future where Minamikawa lovingly serves him a meal, calling him darling. Hearing his wildly domestic daydream, Minamikawa is left completely aghast and blushing furiously. She snaps out of it and smacks him, yelling that his imagination is moving way too fast. Unfazed, Takamori simply asks if miso soup is fine, leaving Minamikawa and their classmates utterly bewildered by their bizarre exchange. Minamikawa realizes with dismay that her current situation is bad. Recently, she and Takamori have gotten much closer, which is the opposite of her goal. She resolves that she must find a way to make him hate her, and a sudden idea strikes her in the classroom. She looks down to see a snapped mechanical pencil on the floor. In her shock, she realizes it's Takamori's pencil and that it must have broken when she stepped on it. Her startled gasp catches Takamori's attention, and he turns to ask what's wrong. Minamikawa awkwardly tries to greet Takamori. Just as the bell rings, she quietly tries to hand him the broken pencil. However, he's preoccupied with writing in his journal and doesn't notice her. Left standing there, Minamikawa panics internally, unsure of what to do. Having fled to the restroom, Minamikawa slumps onto a toilet seat, knowing she has to apologize properly. She's torn. A devil suggests this could make him hate her, but an angel chides her for such a thought. The angel's voice fills her with dread, suggesting the pencil could have been a precious memento. The thought of how angry even someone like Takamori would be horrifies her. Realizing this is no time for hiding, she bursts out of the restroom, determined to apologize immediately. She rushes back to the classroom and tentatively calls out to Takamori. He looks up from his phone, turning his attention to her. Minamikawa nervously mumbles, struggling to find the right words. She finally manages to apologize, confessing that she broke something precious of his. She squeezes the handkerchief containing the broken pencil behind her back. Just as she is about to explain further, another student calls Takamori away for class duty. As he starts to leave, Minamikawa panics and insists he go. Takamori pauses, confused by her sudden change of heart, and asks what she was trying to say. Takamori decides to leave for his class duty. Minamikawa forces a cheerful wave, wishing him luck. The moment he's gone, her cheerful facade crumbles and she vows to find another chance to apologize. In class, the teacher calls on Takamori just as she's about to speak. During PE, she tries to catch him but fails. Later, another classmate pulls him away to help with a task, leaving her frustrated once again. Every time she turns around, Takamori has suddenly disappeared. Frustrated, she begins to frantically search the school halls. Her calls for him echo across the school grounds. Leaning against a window, utterly defeated, Minamikawa vents her frustration that she can't find the right moment to apologize. She reflects on how she hasn't managed to speak to Takamori alone even once. Then a sudden thought strikes her. She realizes that all she has done the entire day is chase after him. The realization that she's spent her entire day thinking only about Takamori hits her with full force. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, she collapses, mortified at her own actions. She looks at the broken pencil in the handkerchief, still worried he'll be upset. She is sure he will be upset, especially if the pencil was important to him. She decides there's no other way. She has to call him out to the rooftop again to ensure they can finally talk alone. The two of them stand on the school rooftop. Takamori notes that this is the second time she's called him there. He mentions that he sensed she was trying to tell him something all day and wonders if he did something to upset her. Takamori suddenly has a horrifying thought. He worries that he has been grinning at her like a pervert. He concludes this must be why she called him out and that she thinks he's gross. Flustered, he begins to stammer an apology. Before Takamori can continue his mistaken apology, Minamikawa blurts out her own, holding out the handkerchief containing the broken pencil. Takamori looks at the crumbled pieces of the pencil, confused. He asks if it's his pencil. Minamikawa quietly confirms that it is. With tears in her eyes, Minamikawa explains that she broke his precious pencil by stepping on it. She apologizes for taking so long to tell him and asks for his forgiveness. Takamori tells her it's fine and not to worry about it. Minamikawa is distraught, asking if it wasn't a memento from his grandmother, shocked that it was just a cheap pencil. Takamori clarifies that it wasn't a memento and he hadn't even noticed it was missing. Still feeling guilty, Minamikawa insists on compensating him for it and asks if he is free after school. She nervously awaits his answer. Takamori's mind immediately jumps to one conclusion, his inner voice screaming in excitement, "Isn't this basically a date?" Minamikawa is shocked by how loud his inner voice is. Takamori internally questions why she would go so far for just a pencil. He then clenches his fist, thinking how admirable and unfairly cute her sincerity is. He realizes she must have been thinking about him all day, a thought that makes him want to explode with happiness. More importantly, he tells himself he is. Takamori internally celebrates that it's an after-school date and tells Minamikawa that he is completely free. Flustered, Minamikawa shouts back that she told him it is not a date. Takamori's inner voice celebrates what he thinks is a date with Minamikawa, while she outwardly insists that it is not. Flustered, Minamikawa wonders how things came to this. The two have arrived at a stationery store. Minamikawa reminds herself that she's only here because she felt bad for breaking Takamori's pencil. She internally insists that this is definitely not a date. Her thoughts are prompted by other girls in the store whispering about the boy she is with. The girls comment on how quiet and handsome Takamori seems. Hearing this, Minamikawa peeks over at him, thinking skeptically about the quiet part. Meanwhile, Takamori is internally ecstatic, overjoyed just to be standing next to Minamikawa outside of school. Overwhelmed by his loud thoughts, Minamikawa desperately wishes everyone else could hear how he is not quiet at all. Minamikawa asks Takamori if he is done looking. Takamori picks up a pencil and remarks that it looks cute just like her. His comment leaves Minamikawa completely stunned and flustered. He considers another pencil, thinking it would also suit her well, making her blush furiously. Takamori muses that a particular color would perfectly fit someone as beautiful as Minamikawa. As he wonders which one is better, a flustered Minamikawa interrupts, insisting she can pick one herself. She tries to direct his attention elsewhere, but he's left confused by her outburst. She reminds him that she's paying for it anyway. Minamikawa tells him he can pick anything he wants. Takamori asks if he can really choose anything, and she confidently agrees. She privately reassures herself that a pencil will not be too expensive. Taking charge, Minamikawa presents a pencil to Takamori, asking if it seems like a good fit. She excitedly shows him another one, asking if he thinks it's cool. With him remaining silent, she continues her search for something else. Takamori's inner voice suddenly declares that she's too cute, and he struggles to hide his reaction. His thoughts then compare her to a salesperson, which shocks Minamikawa. Frustrated by his apparent lack of interest, she considers giving up and going home. Hearing Takamori's silent wish for the moment to last forever makes Minamikawa blush. She is left speechless by his thoughts. Flustered, she demands that he stop thinking such embarrassing things and just pick a pencil, which he finally does. At the checkout counter, the cashier states the price. Minamikawa reaches for her wallet to pay. However, Takamori steps forward and pays for the pencil himself. Minamikawa is surprised by his action, protesting that she should be the one to pay. Suddenly, the cashier rings a bell and loudly congratulates them. Both Minamikawa and Takamori are completely baffled. They wonder what is happening and what they could have possibly done. The cashier cheerfully explains that the store has a promotion for couples, allowing them to get an additional pencil for free. The two are taken aback by being mistaken for a couple. As the cashier offers the bonus item, Minamikawa frantically tries to correct the misunderstanding. Takamori looks at the free pencil he received. He sees the blushing Minamikawa beside him. Without a word, he gently places the bonus pencil into her hand. After leaving the store, they walk in silence for a moment. Minamikawa looks down at the pencil Takamori gave her. Minamikawa happily exclaims that they got it. Takamori quietly thinks to himself that they did, even though they are not actually a couple. An awkward silence falls between them. Takamori formally offers her the bonus pencil. Minamikawa is taken aback and refuses, exclaiming that she cannot accept it because she has not done anything to deserve it. She protests that he already paid for the other pencil. She explains that she was supposed to be the one compensating him for breaking his old one. She laments that all she really did was follow him to the store. Takamori looks at her, considering her words. He shyly admits that he paid because he simply wanted to go with her. Swallowing nervously, Takamori gathers his courage. Minamikawa is stunned into silence by his confession. He asks her to please accept the pencil as a thank you. He adds that it is just a bonus item. After a moment of flustered hesitation, she agrees. Minamikawa accepts the pencil from his hand. Suddenly, Minamikawa declares that she is only borrowing the pencil. Takamori is caught off guard by her statement. She promises that she will definitely pay him back for it someday. Holding the pencil up, she proclaims that every time she uses it, she will remember this promise. She swears it, looking at him with earnest determination. Looking at her, Takamori is moved by her sincerity. He simply replies with a quiet okay. Back at school, Minamikawa smiles fondly. She uses the new pencil, a memento of her promise. While Takamori silently admires how cute Minamikawa is, she is annoyed by his loud thoughts. Minamikawa feels she has had enough, having run out of ideas on how to make him quiet. Takamori steals his resolve, deciding that today he must tell her. Minamikawa, hearing this, is stunned and demands to know what he wants to tell her. Minamikawa's mind is filled with questions as she tries to decipher Takamori's intentions. Minamikawa sits at her desk, wondering what it is he wants to say to her. A startling realization dawns on her. Her imagination runs wild as she pictures him confessing his love for her. She becomes certain that he is going to confess to her. Her heart pounds in anticipation. Minamikawa realizes this is a big chance to make him hate her, imagining herself flatly rejecting his love. She thinks that just saying she hates him won't work, so she must do something outrageous to make him stop thinking about her. She pictures the scenario where Takamori gives her a love letter. She imagines him confessing that he has always liked her. He then asks her to go out with him. In her mind, he offers her a love letter. In her fantasy, she rips the letter with her teeth. She then proceeds to chew it up. The imagined Takamori watches in horror, trembling as he asks what she is doing. She pictures herself swallowing the letter. She imagines herself smirking and rejecting him completely. Minamikawa thinks this outrageous act will surely make him hate her, while he wonders if she's a goat. She believes that with this, she can finally get him to be quiet. With her plan set, Minamikawa feels a sense of peace, believing she can finally shut Takamori up. She thinks she no longer has to worry about being embarrassed. She impatiently urges him to confess to her now. The school bell chimes, signaling the end of class. Takamori gets up and approaches Minamikawa. Believing this is the moment, she prepares herself and asks what he wants. Takamori seems hesitant and trails off. Minamikawa waits for him to continue. However, he just says, "Never mind," leaving her screaming internally in frustration. Minamikawa cheerfully prompts him, asking if there's something he needs. He replies that yes, he wanted to give this to her. She immediately thinks it must be a love letter. Instead of a letter, Takamori presents a notebook, explaining that the teacher asked him to return it. Completely caught off guard, Minamikawa is speechless. She asks hesitantly if that is all he wanted. He confirms that it is. Minamikawa internally screams that Takamori is a coward, but outwardly just accepts the notebook and thanks him. Takamori thinks to himself that he will say it during the next break. He then postpones it to lunchtime. Finally, he decides he will do it after school. Minamikawa grows increasingly impatient, wondering when he is finally going to say it. The anticipation gives Minamikawa a headache as she flails in frustration. By the time school is over, she is completely drained. Takamori approaches her desk. His voice startles her. Takamori simply says he will see her tomorrow and begins to walk away. Minamikawa watches him leave, stunned. She slams her hand down and tells him to wait. Minamikawa runs up and grabs his hand, stopping him from leaving. Takamori turns back in surprise. Blushing, she tells him that there's something he has to say. Takamori looks at her, confused, as she implies he wants to say something. With a determined and blushing expression, she asks him if there is something he wanted to say to her. Minamikawa is flushed as she waits for his answer. Takamori stares back at her, silent. They remain locked in a tense stare. Realizing she grabbed his hand, Minamikawa panics and apologizes. She is mortified by her own actions. She clasps her hands together, flustered, while Takamori looks on. Takamori finally reveals what he's been holding, offering her something. Minamikawa realizes they are movie tickets, and there are 2 of them. Takamori clarifies what he was trying to say all day. Minamikawa asks if he just wanted them to go to the movies together. He confirms with a nod that yes, that was it. Minamikawa collapses, overwhelmed with relief and disbelief that that was all he wanted to say. Completely exhausted, she thinks that while she was sure it was a confession, she is fine with just watching a movie. Takamori asks if she is really fine with going, while Minamikawa cringes at how she jumped to the wrong conclusion. He asks what she is fine with, clarifying that he wants to watch a movie with her. She realizes with a shock that she just agreed to it without thinking. Hearing her apparent agreement, a deep blush spreads across Takamori's face as he asks if she's for real. Minamikawa watches him leave, still processing what just happened. Looking flustered but pleased, Takamori smoothly says his goodbyes and leaves. After the door shuts, Minamikawa is left alone. The realization of what happened finally hits her. She collapses in a flustered heap, mortified by how happy he looked. This is Takamori Hinako, the younger sister of Takamori-kun. A classmate calls out to Hinako, letting her know she left her pencil case behind. With a chilly expression, Hinako offers a simple thank you, living up to her reputation as the Ice Queen. The boys who returned her pencil case are taken aback by her coldness, thinking she's scary despite being cute. Hinako's inner monologue is loud, much like her brother's, as she chastises herself for her blunt reply. She imagines how she should have responded with a bright smile and despairs over why she is always like this. Hinako mopes at her desk, upset that she can't express herself properly and hasn't spoken to anyone. She fears that if she remains this way, nobody will ever want to talk to her. She feels she can't approach anyone because she doesn't have the courage. Suddenly, a classmate calls her name. Taoju-kun asks Hinako if he can borrow her notes. Hinako is startled. It's the boy who sits next to her, and he admits he fell asleep during class. Determined to seize the opportunity, she tells herself she has to give him a proper response. However, the words that come out are a cold, "Why should I?" The chilly atmosphere immediately returns, shocking Taoju-kun. Hinako instantly regrets her words, calling herself a huge moron for her response to someone who went out of their way to talk to her. Taoju-kun explains that it's because her handwriting is so beautiful. Flustered by the compliment, Hinako timidly wonders if it's okay. He thanks her warmly, promising to return the notes soon. Just like her brother, she is also. Hinako realizes that, like her brother, she is in love with the person who sits next to her, imagining herself confessing to Taoju-kun. Elsewhere, her brother Takamori lets out a sneeze, and Minamikawa wonders if he has a cold. Minamikawa